Hello out there, this is Wakeangel2K1, and I figured that I should talk about this because apparently no one else will ever. This is Lothar from the Warcraft movie toy line. I gotta say, I've been at Toys R Us for almost 5 years now, and I gotta say, I have never seen a toy line peg warm quite as hard as Warcraft. I mean, they have been in the shelves in the adult collector section specifically ever since a couple of weeks before the movie itself came out, and I've not sold a single one. Never has anybody bought a Warcraft figure from me. I believe a couple of the roleplay weapons from the Warcraft toy line sold, but the figures themselves, not a one. This is the most utterly unloved toy line I ever saw in the store. I mean, I know the movie was a big box office flop, which is unfortunate. One of actually, like, what, 3 or 4 video game movies that came out over the summer? Let's see, there was the Ratchet and Clank movie, the Angry Birds movie, this one. There at least had to be one other video game movie I can think of. I don't know, like, well, 3 video game movies in one summer is still quite a bit. But, man, this is... It's actually quite kind of sad. So, at first glance, I looked at this, and I thought, who makes it? I see, since it's made by Legendary Pictures, could it be that it was made by NECA? You know, the people that made the Pacific Rim figures, since Pacific Rim is also a Legendary Pictures property? Was it made by Funko, the people that make a lot of other adult collector toys, such as those Magic the Gathering figures from a long time ago? Well, taking a look at the back... Oh, and look at how nice that prototype figure looks. The shield is so much more golden. The paint is so much more crisp on it. You look at the prototype image, and then you look at the actual toy with its dull bronze and its... Yeah. If only... I bet if the figures looked more like this, they would have actually sold a few of them. Yeah, but, who made them? I was actually a little bit surprised to find it's Jakks Pacific. Yeah, the same people that make the World of Nintendo line, a bunch of other beloved toys. So I was actually pretty surprised that that Jakks Pacific had taken on this particular license. So let's get this guy out of the packaging and see if there's any reason why I've not yet sold a single one of these toys. Oh, and if you're wondering, I found myself in Toys R Us as a shopper for once on Labor Day. The first time I've had a Labor Day off in 2 or 3 years, now that I think about it. And I found that because of a Labor Day sale, these things were marked down. They normally retail for $22.99, but they were available on Labor Day for only $9.09, less than half of the original price. So at that price, I figured I could at least pick one up for custom fodder in the future. So yeah, that's the story of how I became the first person, apparently, to ever buy one of these. Before we get into the figure itself, I just thought I'd give a quick nod to this really nice backdrop. It features a scene from the movie. It's really nice. Like, this is one of the reasons why I thought that the figure was made by NECA at first. Because this reminds me of the backdrop from the packaging for, like, the Ultimate Striker Eureka. Yeah, that's not bad. That's actually a really nice backdrop. If nothing else, you, like, set that up behind a fish tank to give you a nice epic look. You know, nothing wrong with the backdrop. So the packaging is at least quite decent. So let's get to the toy itself. Well, there he is, Lothar out of the box. So, you can pretty much see why these things don't have very much appeal straight out the packaging. I mean, it looks kind of like a high-end figure, something trying to appeal to adult collectors, but it is absolutely not painted that way. I mean, let's zoom in so you can really see what I'm talking about. Okay, now to play devil's advocate, I have seen some that look more decently painted than this, but I don't know, like, it just looks way too mushy. I mean, there's a big paint blob on his nose, and the scars on his face, they just look like somebody scratched the figure more than anything else. And like, I don't know, like once you get up close in the details, like you see how things wash over, or how there's just this really dull, flat look to everything, and it just does not have the epic armor look. Like, this thing really needed some more silvery or golden metallics, something to make it look a little more poppy. Like, it's a very dreary, dull looking figure because of that weak sauce paint job, which is a shame. And you know what? That paint job is actually the only major weak point, because once I actually got to inspect the figure itself, underneath that really lame, dull paint job, there's a pretty decent action figure under there. Yeah, like, he's good and tall, he's 6 inches, he's nice and solid feeling. He has that kind of plastic that's just soft enough that it doesn't feel like he's brittle and will snap if you accidentally drop him, but it's not so soft that you feel like if something might get paint stuck, and if you tried to move a point of articulation, it would tear. So, oh, and I did mod one thing. His legs were unable to move very much because this skirt piece, though made out of a flexible material, was all one solid piece that wrapped around his legs all the way down to his knees. So what I did was I took an X-Acto knife and I traced along his skirts to free it up to the waist, and that freed up his leg articulation so much. The box advertises 14 points of articulation, but he actually has, by my count, 22. I've never seen a packaging underestimate the articulation levels of their figure by so much. So let's go into that articulation. He has a swivel head, that's 1. A swiveling waist, 2. Both shoulders are universal jointed, so that's 4 more for 6. Universal jointed elbows, adds 4 more, so we're up to 10. His wrists have a swivel, so that's 12. He has universal joints in the hips. I really got that skirt out of the way and looked, and yes, it does go forward, backwards, and out, so that's another 4 points of articulation. So that's 16. He has a pretty deep 90-degree knee bend, no thigh swivel, so wait, that's 2 more, so we're up to 18. Then he has boot cuts, that's 20, and then he has foot articulation, so we're at 22, and then he also has a swivel underneath that. Actually, yeah, 24 points of articulation. My mistake. That's actually, and once I cut up the skirt to free up the hips, all of these joints actually have a good range. He can look. I mean, look at how far his arms can go out, despite the fact that he has shoulder armor. It's just flexible enough that it can get out of the way for the arm when you're moving it forward. His elbows get a full 90. So these aren't like, the joints are there, but they're restricted. This is a really well posable figure. They made a really good action figure buck. It's like, I don't know, it's like somebody told them that they were going to make an epic fantasy line for action figures. It's like, alright. And they got really into making a really nice buck, and they sculpted really cool armor and everything. And then they said, hey, what is this epic fantasy action figure line good for? And I said, oh, it's going to be a movie tie-in line for that Warcraft movie. And then upon hearing that, they lost all motivation to continue and just slapped on whatever cheap paint they had lying around in the workroom, and then put them out, because that really feels like that was the process for making this figure. Like somebody started really enthusiastic about it when they started to make the figure itself, and then when it came around time to paint it, like, all motivation just disappeared. Alright, so this guy does come with accessories. He has a sword, which is made out of a decently stiff plastic and holds its shape quite well, although it is painted horribly. Once again, to play devil's advocate, I seen the sword in packaging in the store, and I seen ones that are painted better, although this one's really horribly splotchy. I mean, it's just gray plastic with some blue stuck around the handle, and then like this overspray. Like, how'd they get that all the way up here? That's just terrible. And then you have the shield, which is cast in a bronzish plastic. I think they were going for gold, but it's just not bright enough. And here's the real kicker. The shield is actually made out of a soft material similar to what the figure's skirts are made out of. But then the clasp is made out of a much harder, stiffer plastic. The part that you want to be flexible so you can stretch it over the guy's arm is actually hard plastic. I created a really bad stress mark when I put the shield on for the first time. I thought I was going to break it. He has an open sculpt in his left hand, and the right hand is sculpted to grip the sword. Although because of that big knot, you can't just top load it. You kind of have to get the skinny part of the handle past his thumb and into his fingers, and then he holds it pretty good. It's in there. It's not wiggling around. It looks a little bit undersized though. I feel like the sword had to be at least a little bit bigger, because like when the picture they chose for the box art, you know, the sword looks significantly larger than it actually is. It also looks a great deal more silver instead of this dull gray. And then this thing, like I said, I'm afraid to like stretch it out over, like, you can't really put the hand through it because then that stuff on the gauntlet, the wrist guard, gets in the way. I mean, I feel like that isn't meant to go on his hand. Although I suppose if you bent it inwards like that, you don't really notice. So yeah, just stick the hand in there. It holds just fine. If you try to stretch it over his forearm where it really should go, then I'm afraid that you'd break it. And I don't want to break this just yet, because like I said, I bought it for custom fodder, but I don't like to destroy a toy until I actually get the project started. So for now, he's gonna stay like this. So yeah, that's my final verdict on Lothar from the Warcraft movie toy line. He actually stands quite good. It's just that this is a soft chair. So yeah, it's like it's a chair and a towel, so it's a little bit of a softer thing. So yeah, I feel bad for this toy line. It's like there was a good idea and enthusiasm, and at one point this really could have been a high quality figure, but probably because they felt that they probably foresaw the movie not doing well at the box office, so when it came time to add detail work and paint job to the figure that they sculpted, they really cheaped out, and it made what could have been an otherwise interesting adult collector line. Even if the movie did fail, fans of Warcraft itself might still have got them. But yeah, this is a figure with great potential ruined by a poor paint job. That's all it is. Yeah, so I really can't recommend the Warcraft toy line. I really can't. I wish I could say nicer things. I gave the toy as much credit as I possibly can, but it was barely worth it to me at less than $10, and that's only because I knew I was going to use it to customize rather than actually have it as a figure itself. So at the regular retail price of almost $23, and for what it is, I say do not buy. It's not worth your time. And the other three characters they made in this toy line, that mage dude and the two orcs, they're kind of the same story. They have really good sculpt. They look like they're decently posable, just like this. But yeah, they flop when you think about how badly painted they are. What a shame, but yeah. I guess they're just gonna stay on those pegs until the time comes to clearance them out. Probably sometime around Christmas, they'll mark their prices down. Maybe I'll even buy the other characters for, more custom fodder. Well, this is Wakeangel 2001 signing off.